U.S. economy shrinking 0.3% in the first quarter, significantly weaker than expected, a dramatic turnaround from the fourth quarter of last year.
It happened too quickly for Washington to spin it, and too loudly for Donald Trump to dismiss. Just minutes after Ford Motor Company declared that it was suspending operations at major U.S. facilities, the former president stormed into his private Mar-a-Lago office, not with a news release, but with wrath. Staff members said he raged behind closed doors. Aides were terminated, doors slammed, and by the time his team arrived for damage control, the headlines had already exploded. Ford had withdrawn, and Trump's trademark policy was to blame. This was not simply another business disaster. It was personal. For a man who had spent years portraying himself as the savior of American industry, Ford's withdrawal was disastrous. His entire pledge of bringing jobs back to America was now in direct conflict with the automaker's enormous move, which was prompted by tariffs he supported. But this is more than just a political outburst. It's a clash between policy and production, between economic aspirations and the realities of global supply chains. It's not just about automobiles. It's about employment, climate objectives, and an uncertain electric future. What about Donald Trump's meltdown? It might be the clearest indication yet that the American manufacturing dream is spinning out of control. Ford's announcement was not accompanied by a lavish news conference or industry celebration. Instead, it came as a cold, stark announcement to investors. Important U.S. plants will be closed forever. What's the reason? A catastrophic drop in profitability caused by Trump-era tariffs that had finally come due. The statistics presented a grim narrative. Ford, which had previously projected a strong $8.5 billion profit for the year, has dropped its prediction totally. Nearly $1.5 billion in planned revenues had evaporated, gobbled up by the expense of import tariffs on components manufactured elsewhere. China's retaliatory tariffs exacerbated the situation, as exports dried up and worldwide demand slipped through Ford's fingers. But the moment that triggered Trump's outburst was more than simply financial. It was symbolic. Ford, the corporation he once extolled as the heartbeat of American manufacturing, was retreating from the very idea that fueled his populist campaigns. According to sources, Trump was informed only minutes before the article broke. He raged, describing it as a betrayal and accusing Ford management of bowing to globalists. But beneath the wrath was worry, concern that the failure of Ford's U.S. operations would spark off a chain reaction involving other manufacturers. And he is not incorrect. General Motors has already withdrawn its profit guidance. Supplier networks are disorganized. Union officials are advising workers not to make major financial choices. It's no longer simply a corporate issue. It's a system-wide tremor. And Trump's rage, it's only the beginning. This all began with a promise to restore American employment by imposing strict taxes on foreign products. It was one of Trump's key campaign promises, and it resonated in industry communities across the Rust Belt. However, those levies have transformed into a wrecking ball, striking into the car sector with full force. Trump's original 25% import tariff on light-duty automobiles was intended to boost American manufacturing. However, in today's linked industrial scene, where a single vehicle part may travel across 5 countries before assembly, the policy has become a logistical nightmare. Ford, GM, and Stellantis, all heavily involved in global supply networks, are straining to adjust. And the political backlash is harsh. Within hours following Ford's statement, Trump turned to Truth Social, accusing the firm of being disloyal and cowardly. He accused them of abandoning American workers, despite the fact that his own policies made operating in the United States increasingly impossible. Meanwhile, unions are dividing along national lines. The United Auto Workers, UAW, in the United States praised the tariffs, describing them as a course correction. But over the border in Canada, labor groups are raising the alarm. One union representative from Ontario described the scenario as a knife in the back, warning that thousands of jobs might be lost in a matter of weeks. This is not simply a policy dispute. Trump's nationalist agenda has sparked a widening worldwide divide among friends, workers, and lawmakers. And as the tweets become more hostile and the factories go dark, the sector realizes the unpleasant truth. Manufacturing is no longer about borders, but about survival. While politicians argue about legislation and CEOs discuss strategy, the factory floor is where the harm occurs first and hardest. Union officials representing General Motors workers in Ingersoll, Ontario, issued a dire warning. Prepare for production halts and postpone any significant purchases. The uncertainty has transformed daily tasks into a countdown clock. We've seen this before, said Mike Vanukel, the union's chairman, but never so rapidly. If tariffs remain in place, we will shut down. Days, not weeks. Ford's suppliers are also feeling the strain. From parts plants in Ohio to electronics centers in Mexico, whole enterprises are confronting the same grim reality. You can't produce vehicles if you can't afford the components. And when costs rise, the backlog increases. The shutdowns are spreading throughout North America. Canadian plants in Windsor and Etobicoke are still operational for the time being, but are reporting decreased shifts and unsteady inventory. In the United States, smaller subcontractors are bracing for layoffs, worried whether their next shipment of parts will even make it past customs. Worse, the decisions are no longer based on market performance. They are driven by policy rather than demand, innovation, or competition. Tariffs, reactive decisions, and dread. What about the unions? They are split. In the United States, the UAW is promoting job-saving nationalism. In Canada and Mexico, indignation is spreading. Former cross-border partners must now look out for themselves. The togetherness that once distinguished the North American auto worker is breaking down, one halted factory at a time. The message is clear. Workers are on the front lines of this trade war, not as collateral. Buried under the headlines of factory closures and political posturing is a far quieter casualty: North America's electric car future. For years, firms such as Ford, General Motors, and Tesla have positioned EVs as their next big jump. Billions have been invested in battery technologies, new factories, and reinvented supply systems. But all of this development is predicated on one important assumption: open and inexpensive access to vital components. That presumption has just broken. The very tariffs designed to protect local jobs are now endangering the lifeblood of EV manufacture. Battery cells, power circuits, and microchips are still mostly sourced from Asia. If these parts are included in the next round of tariff rises, the EV revolution may come to a standstill. Already, suppliers in Mexico and Canada, two critical centers in the electric ecosystem, are reducing new investments. Battery plants that were planned are now halted. Charging infrastructure projects are becoming postponed, and cost estimates for electric vehicle production are being discreetly revised upward. This is not simply a glitch, it is a reversal. The green transition, which was previously gathering momentum, is now stalled behind a wall of uncertainty. Worse, consumers will experience it next. As expenses grow, so do EV prices. Tax breaks disappear as eligibility declines. Affordable EVs, the very models required to meet climate targets, are becoming scarcer, delayed, or downright canceled. What is left? High-end electric vehicles for the wealthy, with more gas-powered vehicles for everyone else. What's with the irony? A strategy designed to restore American strength may be the precise thing that undermines America's clean energy future, and practically no one is discussing it. Ford's withdrawal is more than simply a corporate choice. It's a sign of a broader problem. What began as a bold vow to bring employment back to America has now returned with unexpected vigor. Tariffs designed to safeguard have resulted in shutdowns. Nationalism, intended to empower, has divided coalitions. And the future that was supposed to be green, efficient, and job-rich is suddenly in peril. Donald Trump's tantrum is more than simply personal anguish. It's political consequences. His policies met with reality, and reality pushed back more forcefully than planned. The global economy is not readily managed, and supply chains do not respond to slogans. Now the question is not whether the damage can be spun, but if it can be reversed. Can manufacturing recover without jeopardizing international cooperation? Can electric vehicle targets weather another political storm? And can workers be certain that campaign pledges would be carried out on the production floor? This is a boomerang moment for Trump, Ford, and America. The policies have returned, but instead of restoring manufacturing, they have brought reckoning. And this time, the consequences are being measured not in cash, but in futures lost.